Hey everyone, we are live yet again, and I will apologize because I realized when I was setting the calendar for this, even though my announcement was the correct time, I set it while I was in Central Time, and so it synced with Central Time. So it says I'm starting at 8 p.m. Obviously, that is not true. So, apologies. I now know that is the case, and have to be careful when I'm traveling in other time zones when I'm setting these up. But I'll keep my eye out for my co-host. I know he's on board, and I see him already, so that's fantastic. I wish we'll get going.
Howdy, hey.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay,
Just
cool.
turn up my sound. But welcome. I'm glad you got to join me tonight. And I did notice, and I just made that announcement that because I set up the schedule while I was still in the Central Time Zone, I didn't think about adjusting the time because it's set. I don't know. I don't know why, but I was like, so let's go live, and it was like your thing's at 8 p.m. I was like, no, it's not.
That's why I asked. That's why I sent you the message because I was like, it
I'm
said
glad
8
you
to
checked.
9.
I'm glad you checked because my announcement was correct. I just did not think about it when I was in a different time zone. My bad. No things to learn and make mention, but I'm glad you checked. I'm glad we're on schedule. But anywho, welcome. How are you?
Doing great. The in-laws are here. They were supposed to leave today, but my wife did some surgery on her mom, so she's a little swollen, so she's gonna stay for another couple days, I think. But we just had dinner and doing pretty good. How about you?
Well, getting over a little bit of a cold. I've been like chronically, it feels like my household has been chronically, one of us has always been sick for like the last 2 months. I'm hoping we're over it. I'm hoping we're about to kick it and be
Everywhere. I feel like it's everywhere. Everybody's been. We've just colds around the whole time for everybody, over and over and over, and lingering coughs.
Oh,
It's
yes,
been yeah.
exactly. So be warned, you may hear a few of those coughs coming up. But until that point, let me let you introduce yourself and what you write. I always let my co-hosts do that off the top, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. My name is J. Michael Knight. At least that's my pen name. I write. I pretty much have plans to write everything, but right now I write young adult fantasy and adventure, kind of adventure fantasy, and whirlwind adult romantasy. But yeah.
Is all that under your same pen name, or do you have different pen names? Because some people branch out and some people just use one. So I'm always curious what people choose.
Yeah, it's all under the same name. I debated whether I wanted to do but I feel like there's YA that has like, some romance and stuff in it too. So I felt like, but I also have a middle grade story that that I have planned out too. So I think I'm just going to stick with the name and, put the warnings that I got to put and try to have something for everybody, if they want to read one of my stories. So that's my plan.
I love it. Yeah, for me, like, and that's one of those things you debate is if you're trying to cross over age brackets or cross over various genres or subgenres, do you use multiple pen names or do you do kind of just the one and done? And whatever I put out there is going to be under the same one. And so for me right now, all my stuff is epic fantasy. And so even though I have young adult, new adult, and adult literature, I still use the same name. That may change going forward if I jump like drastically, but that's where I am right now. But I've always been curious because I know it can be harder to market a new series when it's that different than the first. How about you? Have you noticed anything between your two? You said two or three projects right now you have.
Yeah, I have two that I'm working on the third book, the final book in my young adult series, and then I also have about a third done, a new contemporary romance that's just going to be a standalone, and that's new for me. But I feel like it's not much different than my romance. It's going to have the spice and everything. It just doesn't have fae and vampires and all that stuff. It's just a regular old people one. So regular
Well,
old people.
I will have to say, I know a lot of readers out there who like to just read about regular old people. So,
Yeah, I'm trying to give people options.
so is there like now that you're working on multiple projects and you have ideas for others down the line, is there something that pulls your interest a little bit more just for you personally, or do you just fall in love with every new project?
Yeah, that's the hard part is figuring out because it's usually the newest one is the one that like I'm infatuated with. Like my contemporary, I was like, oh, like it's flowing right now, and so I wrote like 20,000 words pretty quickly in like a month, and then I hit a stop. And usually I'll hit a stop if there's a scene that I'm just trying to figure out how to work through. And it's been a longer stop than normal because I'm used to writing again, I can make it interesting with magic and fairies and all of that. And so this one is kind of the hardest one because I have to make it interesting with just regular old people. So I put a halt on that and then started what I usually do if I get an idea is I'll write like the first, I don't know, 10 pages or something that I can put, and then I'll go, okay, I've got something written down, then I can go back and reread it and then get into the flow of writing what I want to write. So that's kind of how I do it.
And I did see a comment saying there is a reader for every writer, and that is very true. And that's one of those things is I do believe that, wait, sorry, I had to pop up. I do believe that there are definitely writers who write to market and writers who write what they love and then hope to find the readers out there. And you will find the readers out there. It just may take you a lot longer, but you will find them. So that's the great thing is there's someone for everyone, and there's definitely readers for every author. The trick is finding them.
I've been seeing some weird books that people have been promoting on TikTok on some strange topics, and they've got readers. So, yeah.
No author or no writer should ever kind of be ashamed or question themselves. Like if you have a project that you're just passionate about, do it, write it.
There's like a romance about like a door that's just like an inanimate door that's like a door romance. And like I watch anime sometimes and there's ridiculous like themes like that, but I haven't seen it in like a novel, format. But a lot of people said they like the door romance. So I'm like, there's a reader out there, like you said.
I mean, I've seen, I like to watch a lot of movies and shows as well. And it's one of the ways I like to wind down. And there was a movie made in the 70s and it was called, I'm pretty sure the title was Deathbed. And it's about a bed that unlives people. And that's the premise of this. So there are things out there for everybody.
If you can make that interesting, more power to you.
So your first series, well, actually, let me ask, what got you into writing? What was the spark that was like, I'm finally going to put words on paper and make this a real story?
So I had a idea in my head, I think when I was like in my early teens about a psychic vampire, and I had a scene which I toned down in the actual book, but where the person loses control and just literally just sucks, instantly drains the life out of everybody like around him in a circle, and he's just like crushed by like losing control like that. And so I had an idea of a vampire, again psychic, so he doesn't have to feed on you, he can just like lift his hand up and like drain your life force. And I tried to write it when I was like 14, but I was 14 and I had other things to do, and COVID hit and my vacation got canceled that I was looking forward to Disney for like a year and a half, and my normal escapes just weren't working, my video games, my movies, all the stuff. And so I said, let me see if I can write this story and see what I can do. And I wrote it, and my wife said, you sounded like how a writer would sound, which is high praise coming from her. And she said, you must have read more books than I give you credit for. Another huge compliment. So I said, it can't be that bad. And I had people read it and they seemed to like it. So I said, okay, let's continue. And my dental assistant said that she wanted me to write a story about a vampire mermaid princess, kind of as a joke, because I wrote my first story. And I said, oh, you don't think I'm going to? I will write a story about a vampire mermaid princess. And that's kind of how my romance series started.
I love that. That is fun. I love that. I love when people challenge, someone. You're like, well, I'm going to do it. One of my other friends on Book Talk, uh, AP Beswick, that was how he started with his series that has got him a little notoriety, is the fact that his wife was like, well, you're grumbling about this, storyline. Why don't you write it better? And he was like, well, I will.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. I absolutely love that. And it is a lot of fun. I have a readers group, and one of the things I ask them, because I try to always work. I'm at the stage where I figured out how to pace myself, and I have long projects, but I'm always thinking about the next one. And so I have probably a couple years down the road, but this working project in the back of my mind. And I challenged one of my readers group, and I was like, I want you to create a monster, because I need some kind of creature that y'all can create, and I can stick it into the series. And it was a lot of fun, that whole process. And but yeah, it's fun what people challenge you to do, and it's just like, okay, so now I have to make a whole environment and a scenario and all that kind of fun stuff. So it is a lot of fun.
I mean, I've seen so many music videos where it's like the new, because I find a lot of good music on TikTok, and the artist will be, ask their friend, give me a word, give me a theme or whatever, and then on the spot, they'll write an amazing like jamming song. So I feel like doing that with writing is just as fun.
Yes, and I will say with writing, because I have been always aware that I'm not a great off the cuff storyteller, and there are some people who are fantastic, that can, like, again, someone can give them a beat and they're like, okay, and then weave this wonderful story just out of the blue, and I'm like, I wish I could do that. It takes me a lot of time to think about the environment, the world building, the characters, and then the editing, and more editing, and even more editing.
And then you edit after that.
Yep. So, one of my questions for you then is, what is one of your favorite parts of the process? Like, do you like the world building? Do you like fleshing out the characters? Do you like, what do you find so satisfying about your writing?
Funny enough, my favorite part about writing is getting the cover, was thinking of the cover for the book, and I like to have the cover for the book before I like write the story. But I usually like a character, and I have an idea for a character or an ability for the character, and then I build it around that. Sometimes it's a scene, but usually I think the character is my favorite part, delving into why, like for my new book, my Armor of Lies, I saw the scene from Liar Liar, like one of the funny ones with Jim Carrey, and I was like, what if it was a person who, instead they had to tell the truth, they just were they were compulsive liars, and it wasn't because they were like bad or evil, but it was because they had trauma in their life that lying became like second nature to them, and to like hide from the truth of like what happened to them, so they just lie all the time. And I said, why would they do that? What kind of trauma would cause that? Would somebody be able to love somebody or have a relationship with somebody who's a compulsive liar? And so that whole idea, then I just started thinking of the character, why he would do this, what would cause that, etc. And that kind of formed the whole story. But the covers is my favorite part.
I love that. And I will admit, I've seen some beautiful, especially there are cover designers, for anybody who's listening and is beginning the writing world. There are cover designers that come out with what they call ready-mades or pre-mades, and sometimes that's all it takes to spark someone's idea, and they'll sell these pre-done, book covers to authors who are like you, who could just like be like, ooh, inspiration, all that kind of stuff. I love having an advance. For me, I'm always the one that's like, I wait till the end, because I want to make sure I know exactly the details, everything that comes out of my mind. And the fun thing about writing, there is no wrong or right way. There is your way, and then there is other people's way.
As long as the book gets written, it doesn't really matter how.
Exactly. I love it. So you're working on 2 series simultaneously, or you said you're finishing up one, correct?
Yeah, I'm writing the last one. I'm about a third of the way through that one. I have everything planned out in my head. I'm a pantser, so I don't write anything down. It's all in my head, all in my stories that I have, other than like the first. That's why I write like the first 10 pages, so that I can remember, oh, this is what my idea was, and I go back. But yeah.
Wow. Wow, I'm a little bit like you, and well, definitely a part of the planning side, I'll admit. But I also love the idea that stories kind of come alive. And so it is really kind of neat to see characters or storylines or subplots kind of write themselves into being. And so, have you ever had something big happen in one of your books that you didn't expect? Obviously, being a pantser, you could almost say anything, but like anything that kind of threw a curveball at you, drastic, and you're like, oh wow. You don't have to tell me the details, but it was just general.
Yeah. Even the new one that I'm writing, I had a completely different direction that I had planned in my head, and again, just as I was writing, just I had a pretty major scene in the story. The character Mikey, he has this dark kind of power inside of him that he can't control, and it's kind of alive, kind of like a venom, but not really. But it wants to suck the life out of everybody around him, and it's constantly promising like ultimate pleasure, and he feels amazing when he does it because he's half vampire. And so the whole series he's struggled with controlling it, and I wasn't going to have him be able to do that. And as I was writing a big scene, it just worked out that actually if he could do it right here and now and make a big show of it, it would be like a big emotional kind of scene. And so I just wrote it, and I did not plan on that happening at all. So it was kind of cool that it took, that's what people say, the writing takes over sometimes and the story just goes off on its own.
I think that's, I don't know. I really do think that is so much fun. And I know there are definitely authors who swear by the whole planning every detail out, and that is fantastic if that's your route too. But like for me, it is fun when something just a life of its own sparks, and you're like, ooh, I didn't know that was gonna happen. Ooh, that's cool. Or back someone's background. It's like, ooh, didn't even expect that one.
That's why I go out and I go, sweetie, it's so good. Like, you don't even know. And she's like, I don't know. And I don't want to know. Just tell me after you get it finished. And I go, like, it just went off, but it went off for the better.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it. So for me, one thing, 'cause I'm working on a standalone, kind of like you, for my first standalone, and it's really weird for me to do standalones because I love series. So some very long series, but I love writing in series, and so trying to challenge myself to do new things, and I thought that was a fun thing, as well as I write in up until the standalone, a single point of view, but this one's going to have 3 points of view, which is again a little different for me. So is there anything that you're planning in your future books that's different than what you have been doing, or you kind of have found that sweet spot of writing for you that you're like, I know what I like to do? Hi, dear.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's my whole writing journey is I'm still trying to find, like, that's why I'm trying to write all these different types of books, and I have ideas for different types of genres because I'm kind of new and I want to test myself and see what I'm capable of doing. Originally, I was just going to have my Other Side series, my young adult one, just be a single third person of the main character, and that it didn't work that way. Like the story didn't work just having it that, so I added a few scenes with some of the other characters, and my romance series, I wanted to write it first person for each of the main characters. Each story in my romance is one of the characters introduced in the story, and it's the same world, so they're standalone but kind of an interconnecting main story. And I wanted to make it like they were telling you guys the story, so it's from their perspective, and I wanted their each personalities to shine through the book. And my newest one, the contemporary, is going to be the main female and the male main character alternating kind of the same scenes but through their perspectives, which is a totally new thing for me. So I'm excited, which is another reason that I kind of hit a block, because not only is it contemporary and there's no monsters and magic and stuff, but I'm also trying to get both of their personalities to come through in the same scenes. But yeah, I'm just challenging myself repeatedly, trying to see what I can do.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I think one of the best ways for authors and writers to grow is to kind of see, try new things. Now, it may not all work, but you try new things. And for going back to the point of having my readers group come up with a monster and going to be using it in a future big series, full-length series, but as a gift to them, as a thank you for like helping me with this endeavor, I wrote them a short story. And one of my things was, not only was it a challenge for me of how do I take someone else's suggestion, this creature they've developed, and put it into a story, but I also challenged myself to do first person, which I'm a third person writer. I'm a third person writer, and so that was hard. That was very hard. I'm glad I did it. I don't know if I can do it again.
It's tough. Well, I mean, and I have another series that I'm going to write, which will be my first epic fantasy. And I was originally going to have it first person, and I wrote the first 2 chapters in first person, and then as I continued on thinking through, I'm like, it's not going to work. I'm going to have to switch it back. I'm going to have to switch to third person because that's where I feel comfortable writing these types of stories. But I feel like I think only my romance is going to be first person, and I'm going to keep all of my, like YA and middle grade and all of that third person because I just think it just works for me.
So people have been writing second person. I've yet to read a book or story, but I've heard they exist. If anybody knows one, let me know. But yeah, depending on the writer, you definitely have one or the other that you just love, that just works for you, the way your brain works, and third person for me. It's just
good that you know that.
And my editor was like pulling out her hair, God bless, because she was just like, we got some edits to do for this, because she was like, said so many questions. And again, I know it was a freebie story for a small group of people, but I was just like, she was just like, this needs some work. And I was just like, okay, so that's just not my forte.
I'm sorry, Tina, about this is going to be the last book, so it's all going to be wrapped up. No cliffhangers.
And always make sure, feel free to note anything that pops up, because I never know how these lives work. Sometimes you see things, sometimes I see things, sometimes we both see things. But because crossing fingers that this platform lets me repurpose this later, I'll put this on YouTube and they don't see the details. So you always feel free if you want to shout out or recognize that, because that's cool. And cliffhangers, okay. I love cliffhangers. I love them because they're infuriating. I love to do things because they're infuriating. As an author and as a reader, I like it's weird. Maybe, I don't know. I kind of like being annoyed at stuff like that. So I actually do like cliffhangers.
Brings you an emotional response, and that's all that matters. As long as it's not like this is terrible, I'm good with almost any emotional response.
Yes, and I'm glad you said that, because I say that all the time, that a good writer draws emotion, and it doesn't matter what kind, but they draw some kind of emotion. Or else, why is a reader reading this if they don't have any connectivity? And it could be negative, it could be positive emotions, it could be something in between. But yes, that's what I was just saying. Emotions are great, and I don't know. I definitely know when it comes to stuff like cliffhangers, people love them or hate them. People love them or hate them.
Well, for my other side series, I had it as 3 books in my head, and I had it kind of as 3 different events, because Mikey's half vampire and half of Jakar, which are humans that can use this special energy called the Source. Damn it, I forgot where I was going to go with my thought.
It's okay. We were talking about cliffhangers and emotions. Cliffhangers.
Yeah, so I had it as 3 different stories in my head, and I could have written it as one huge giant, 800-page book, but I don't like that. I don't like super thick, intimidating books either, and so I kept it as the 3 different. The first book he's with his mother's people. The second book he's with his father's people. The third book he's trying to bring everybody together to fight this, big enemy. And I tried to wrap at least each one up where the main goal of each one is accomplished, but they're definitely still cliffhangers.
Okay. The funny thing is, I love a big book. Now, I'm a very slow reader, so I probably tackle one a year, but I actually really like a big book. With that said, as an indie author, I have become very aware that it's really hard to find printers to print a big book. And I know some authors that have struggled because they like writing a big, big book. So, Tolkien split his into three, and that's how you have Lord of the Rings, one book in three little compartments. But it's a way that at least is not intimidating for the majority of readers, because even if you like big books, you're going to read a smaller one or a normal size one as well. But there are definitely some that are like, ooh, Priory of the Orange Tree, that's huge. That's probably my next big book. I'm staring at it right there. But like, big books.
I like big books if they're on Audible. I feel like they're easier for me to digest. And yeah, I used to read everything back in the day. Now my reading is cut down drastically because always trying to balance reading versus writing, because I always feel like I should be writing. I should be writing right now.
And that's the sad thing is, I've been so fortunate, and so I guess you could say blessed, to now have met so many other authors, especially indie authors, all over the board, and I love book swapping and all this kind of stuff. So I have a big collection, but I haven't gotten to most of them because I'm a slow reader. When I say slow, literally I'm a slow reader, and the majority of my time is spent writing.
I promised Evie that I would finish Leona, so I was reading some Leona this morning. I promise I'll get it done. It's really good. And I wanted to comment, Brandy and Tina are saying, when is book 3 done? I usually, the last 2 books I've put on an Amazon pre-order to force myself to get it done, because sometimes I need that crippling pressure to make me write. So I was actually thinking this morning, should I do a pre-order, and when would be enough time to give me time to get everything done. But I'm hoping by April, I'll have it out. I was thinking of releasing it like April 1st or something like that. I think I can make April 1st. And if you guys want me to put like the first 2 chapters or something up as like a teasy tease, I could do that also on my website. So.
See, I was waiting for someone to say yes, because everybody loves a sneak peek.
Do that.
But yeah, it is interesting. Like, I'm a person who's the opposite of a procrastinator. I have to get things done right away. Now, with that said, I am trying to find the right balance, because I always juggle multiple projects at the same time and try to give everyone the fair share. One of the things I've been debating, probably going to do it, is run a Kickstarter for my next, because I started doing that I did one last year, and I like this as a way to help preempt, because it costs a lot of money to publish indie, and so to kind of preempt and kind of help cover some of those initial costs for release of some of my bigger books, because I write full lengths and then I write novellas. And I may do another one soon, even though the book is being edited. So like, it's written, but it's edited, so it's not completely done, but I'm like, I have a good faith that even if I start running the Kickstarter, and it'll be ready. I don't know.
You should. I mean, you don't even want to know the amount of money that I have spent, that I am in the hole for this so far. But it's what I love doing more than anything, so I'm going to keep doing it. So
that means you have the soul.
Bajillions of dollars. Bajillions.
No, it's true. It is true. It's like, when you calculate, you're like, oh my gosh. And it is not the cheapest of occupations or hobbies or whichever type of writer you are.
It's an expensive hobby right now. That some people like, so that's nice.
Yes. But it is kind of cool, and I did enjoy that, the Kickstarter. I mean, it's work, but I enjoyed that process, and I would advise anybody who is interested. Obviously, it's another level of work and stuff to test those waters out, because it may help you down the road if you're trying to do something cool like that. But yeah, so I lost my train of thought. I had something and I lost it there. It's okay. It happens. I'm coming off the cold, okay, everyone.
You got NyQuil or ZZ Quill,
I'll probably take that soon. But yeah, East Coast person. But
I'm in Virginia.
Hello, Alabama. Haven't done a Friday one of these in a while, so it's kind of cool to see everybody popping in because now everybody's gearing up for the weekend. That's great.
I have the fold phone, and I've been doing it because I usually have it open because when it's folded, it's like super thick and it's like very small. But if I have it open, I can't see any of the comments at all. You just see me and you, and there's no space for comments at all. So now I've started doing it in the folded version where now I can get to see everybody's comments. So it's nice.
There you go. Yeah, I was gonna say I love a talkative group. If anybody ever has questions for us, feel free to ask. We answer all bookish things. But here's a fun one. So I love asking this one because it's so interesting. Where do you come up with your character names?
See, people has like struggle with that. I just pick one. Like I'll literally just go. I'm just gonna name him that, and I go because it sounds cool, and that's it. And then I just roll with it. Uh, and then that's usually like I just pick one. That's not something that usually bothers me. I like to pick character names that I feel like people can pronounce. Because I used to think Hermione was Hermione, and the whole time I read Harry Potter, I thought it was Hermione because I've never seen that name before. And then when I saw the Harry Potter movies and they were like Hermione, I was like, that makes way more sense, and that's a much better name than what I had pronounced in my head. So I try to come up with names that I feel like people can pronounce or figure out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like for me, well, I do a lot of different things, but because I like to base off mythology, I definitely have a pronunciation guide inserted in all my books because in case now, I obviously there's some people who are like I'm going to just pronounce it the way I want and that's fine. That's cool. But if you want to know how I pronounce it, I have phonetic pronunciation guides in the back because I do use very unusual names in my books.
Yeah, I was trying to, I was looking up your stuff on Amazon, and I think the main character in one of your, does it start, her name's like started with an L or something, and it was like LY.
Yeah,
What was it?
leaf. Like the thing.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, that's again, I pull things from Old Norse and
Yeah, that's why I try to think of names too that fit with if they're an 8,000-year-old vampire, it's not going to be Peter. That doesn't really, make too much sense. But yeah.
oh yes. And but actually, depending on what you're writing, like if you're setting in a modern day scenario, I know some people who do modern, the modern fantasy versus kind of period or ancient or other world fantasy. And I talked to another author and he was just like, yeah, if I want anyone Bob, his name is Bob
I
because
like that too.
it's just a name you would
Whatever you feel inside.
yeah, it's just fantastic.
Randy, do you mean like when you say strongest, who you think my strongest character? Do you mean like physically or like power wise, or what do you mean by strongest character? No, hey Max.
A good question. Good question. Because yes, you could have like a physical strength.
Yeah.
You could have like I
Mental
guess
fortitude.
their importance of the story. There's different kind of strengths. So good question. We will wait. Hello from France. We will await your clarification. But yeah, no. For me, well, okay. The hardest question I feel like to ask an author is like, what is your favorite character? Because I think that's a cruel question. So I won't do that. But what character can you let me know one of your characters that you really enjoy? It doesn't have to be your favorite or the favorite, but what is one that you really enjoy?
Probably Luke, who is the healer in my young adult series. He was originally boring, and I just decided instead of making him boring, like I was just having him just be kind of a regular old, person and kind of a fill-in, and that wasn't fun. And so I made him really obsessed with healing. Like he really wants to be a really good healer at the point that he wants like his friends a little bit to get hurt so that he can practice so that he can practice on him. But I made it kind of comical in a way where he's like, if you get your arm chopped off, that's fine. I think I can put it back together. And so he's kind of one of my favorite characters to write because he's kind of kooky and macabre in a way, and so like he had like a new power and he wanted to show the friends, and they're like, how the hell did you come up with this? And he's like, oh, I just practiced on dead bodies. And they're like, oh, like that's kind of, he's like, well, how else am I gonna, like, he has the power where he can turn his energy kind of into like flesh eating bacteria where it just eats away like at your skin and flesh, and then he can grow it back. And so he like practice on his he's like, Mikey, like, here, let me practice on you. And he's like, what are you gonna do? And he's like, don't worry, like, it's gonna be fine. And he like, literally his like skin started decaying. He's like, oh, I'm gonna put it back, I think it'll work. And he put it back, and the friends are like, what do you mean you think it'll work? And he's like, well, the dead bodies don't grow back because they're dead. And he goes, but I had the principles in my head. So he's kind of my favorite character in that sense because he's just goofy.
I love that. I actually love that.
Oh, and Tina likes Lakin.
Much fun. But yeah, having written a number of stories, like, again, I don't like that question of who is your favorite, but there were so many fun characters I feel like writers write, and like there are a lot of fun ones that are like side characters or the non-main characters, which obviously it's easier to say a main character because you invest so much time and energy. But there's some that are kind of like the one-offs characters that may not be the main or the main group, but are really kind of fun and interesting. And okay, I have a story. For my Dark Viking fantasy, the narrator, because I've started getting into audiobooks the past couple years, and the narrator for that one, he's also an actor. And I kind of ripped him at one point because I was just like, hey, there's this character right here. I feel like that could be you. If this ever turned into a movie or a show, this should be you. And he was starting to read, because this was right at the beginning. He was just like, I don't like this character at all. And I was like, but you haven't read far enough. This is one of my favorite ones because his story arc is just so beautiful. I was like, now you will like him a lot later.
Yeah, they gotta evolve. They gotta grow. They gotta. Luke, the main character, or not the main character, the side character that I like, he's definitely growing throughout the series. I didn't have him in my second book a lot, so I'm trying to have him more in the third book because I like him so much. And Brandy, the strongest character, since I didn't answer your question. Definitely now that I'm writing the third book, like the scene that I told Katharine about him being able to finally control his power, he is definitely the strongest character in any of my stories right now.
Right now.
He's a little OP right now. But he's also, even though he's OP, he's having his hands tied behind his back where he can't really use his powers, so.
Oh no. No, I think, and that's always a fun thing to do. You finally gift a character this like ability or some kind of control of something, and then you're like, but now you can't use it. It's so funny. I like it. I have a question saying I have 24 runes of the Nordic alphabet. Ah, yes, Valkanet. Yes, sorry. I don't know what you can see back here, but the Guardian Speaker, each cover features one of the runes of the Elder Firthorc runish alphabet of Norse. And yes, the Valknut is one of the ones that from the Icelandic sigils era. But love that stuff.
Would I consider my weakest character?
Oh no, I don't know how I would answer that.
I don't even know if I have weak characters.
Right. No, but like the problem is like how far down the totem pole are you gonna ask? Like, are you talking about like Joe Blow over there that accidentally steps in the place that he wasn't supposed to and unalives himself in a side? Like, okay, that might be the weakest character technically, but like, what do you mean? Like, that's hard to decide.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who my weakest there's plenty of people that have just died. So I had a vampire in my other side series who was, and the vampires in my story have like signed an agreement where they're not supposed to feed on people, but of course they still do that. And there's one who runs like a 24-hour gas station in the middle of nowhere that's like a junkyard, and he pretty much feeds on and kills the people that come to his gas station, and then he puts their car in the junkyard and gets rid of all their information and all their plates and everything. And Mikey killed him in like a minute. So he was pretty weak.
Fair enough. Cool little like side setup, but that is definitely a fair setup. And yes, and I see one about Yggdrasil and Gungnir and the Vegvisir. Yes, I actually incorporate all that in my book series, by the way. So I,
that too.
series. For the Nordic series, I've invested years researching both the historical side of things as well as the mythos. What sort of research, if any, have you done for your books?
I did quite a bit of research on kind of compulsive liar, and the different causes of compulsive liars and what makes them tick, what are the types of traumas that they would have, etc., to try to make a believable character for that. Trying to think. I've done some research from what it was like kind of thousands of years ago to try to write my vampire character like Magnus, which I'm going to write actually a standalone story about how he became the first vampire. And so I've been doing a lot of research on like early civilizations and what that was like 8,000 years ago, because that's how old he was when he was turned. And I use a lot of my military background and kind of the secret organization in my young adult series, kind of how they organize things.
Okay, so this is actually fascinating. So you have a vampire that's 8,000 years old. That's a long time to live. For me, just personally, just thinking about it, I feel like the immortal types might get bored. Like, there's a good chance you're just gonna get bored. Is that a case for any of your longer living entities? Because it's just like 8,000 years. You see a lot coming.
That was the thing, Magnus, who Mikey finds out he's pretty much immortal, or he's probably going to be immortal, and that was nothing he's ever considered like in his life. Like, he doesn't understand. Like, his dad's 6,000 years old, who he thought was dead throughout the whole first book, and then you find out, spoiler. Anyway. I have Magnus, like, he's trying to educate Mikey, because he's like, it's sad that you were educated by the humans, because you don't, like, thinking like them is bad, because you don't know, like, having your thoughts and your wants that you have right now is going to lead you down to madness. Like, trust me, I know. Like, you have to have a thing that you have that keeps you going throughout all of these years, and Magnus's thing is his people, which he created out of kind of loneliness. But yeah, he spent a long time trying to make more of him, because he was the only one of him that was created, and everybody around him was dying. And he's like, I'm going crazy, so I need to figure out how to make more of me. And so he does. And but yeah, he does a lot of talking with Mikey, where he's trying to educate like a 17-year-old who is 8,000 years old. Like, just wait. Like, you don't know what you know yet. You're only 17, but like, stop trying to lecture me about your opinions. I have a scene. It's one of my favorite scenes where he's like I've been in more battles than years that you've been alive. Like, who are you to try? Like, I've debated my own existence like for thousands of years, my own morality. Like, you don't have the high ground with your morals. Like, I've spent thousands of years debating this and thinking about my actions and what I'm doing and the morality of what I'm doing. But yeah, definitely. It's definitely important to try. Yeah, I love thinking about that.
Yeah, and again, I feel like stuff like that kind of self introspection is great for a character to do, especially some that you have like are these not necessarily all powerful, but very powerful, maybe immortal or semi-immortal entities. But I did see a question, I'm pretty sure, pertaining to your books about how about the Wiccan parts of your books? I'm assuming that's yours. I mean, I do have witchcraft and stuff like that on some of mine, but what about? I'm assuming that's for you.
Yeah, I just wrote the witch, which is the magical expert on my crime fighting team for my romance series. I just wrote her story, and that's what she's pretty much the magical expert for the team. There's each member. There's a tech guy. There's a human that's like their long range like person, an intel person, and then she's the handles all things magical. And really for that, I just used all of my shows and TV and video games and everything that I've read about that I've liked about witches, and I picked the parts that I liked and put my own twist on some of the things. In one of the scenes, I think I went into pretty detail about how potions like worked in their world, because that's like super fun for me.
I love that. Yeah, and my young adult fantasy, it's a magical multiverse, portal fantasy kind of style. And I have 12 magical worlds. Sorry, getting over a cold. But one of them is essentially the world of witchcraft wizardry. And my main character, and it's not necessarily a spoiler, first time appearing on this world and first exposure is this, old wizened wizard, beard, cane, the stereotypical whatever. And then like he like grabs her, and then like he transforms into the suave younger debonair stuff. He's like, why is it that your kind always assumes that we're supposed to look like that? It was just like that tongue in cheek, because we're not like that. And they're like, he's like, no, what you think is not what we are. And it's a lot of fun too. Like, there's a lot of chatter, so I'm like skipping up.
No, I'm trying to, yeah. Which I love. I'm glad people are talking.
I love questions and I love conversations, but yeah. And okay, so here's the thing. I did see a comment about being Celtic and Spanish, and I'm Swedish and with some Germanic and some other stuff, but predominantly Swedish. So one of my interests and one of the reasons why I have this tie-in to Nordic mythos is because of my heritage. Is there anything like that you were drawn to because of something in your backstory that you're like, well, I have this weird little tie into whatever it is?
Well, I'm Cuban. I'm half Cuban and then half every type of white that there is. And so the witch romance that I just wrote, I made her man a Spanish dentist, and I had him speaking a lot of Spanish that I've heard and that my family has spoke growing up. So like a lot of the, adios mio and the things that like my grandma, used to say when she was in trouble or something, bothered her, etc. So I tried to put a decent amount of that for fun in that story.
Cool. I love that. It's fun to have like, it may not be a true Easter egg, but it might be because, if people know you well enough, they're like, oh yeah, that's I get that. But like the general reader might not. Those are kind of fun too. And I do see a comment popping up saying, you make the rules for your books so you can figure out how to break them. And that's one of those, like, you have to do it carefully, because when you make rules, especially for fantasy writers, keep them as much as possible. If you break them, make sure everybody knows you are purposely breaking it and make a big thing about it, or else someone's going to come up and be like,
like the rules.
What is this? Why did you say this was a thing and it's not? Sorry. I'm looking at all these questions and not questions, comments. Sorry. Catch up.
You look like Trisha Payta's child. I just want you to know that.
I think you caught it. Yes. Okay. Making sure there wasn't any questions thrown in there, because I hate missing questions, but I know I do that all the time for ones chattier sessions. But okay, because the hour's always speeding by, and one of the things I always want to make sure I ask is, one, what kind of formats are your books released in? Because there are people who I like ebooks, I like audio, so what kind of formats, and where can people buy your books?
So I have them in everything. On Audible, I have them. I didn't voice them. I got actual real people with skills. Audible, ebook, and print. And I don't have the romance in hardcover, just because I feel like it would be the thinnest hardcover ever. And because I want them to be fast whirlwind romances. And I have the first two in my young adult on Audible, and I have the first in my romance on Audible. And Molly Rock and I are talking. We're in the works about her doing my second romance, the witch one. So
Ooh, I love that. And where can people buy them?
Amazon. I'm on Amazon and or jmichaelknight.com. I have the signed copies there and some merch and my super duper ultra mega book box and my regular book boxes.
I love that. And I did see a question pop up asking if I have my books on KU. I originally did, and I have been, and long debate, lots of concept, I've been pulling away from that. So right now, technically only for a limited time, the only one that's still in KU is the 12 Tasks. It's the first one in my young adult portal fantasy. Everything else has been removed because I wanted to be able to sell direct and move wide. And I can't do that if I'm part of KU because there's exclusivity things. And so I wanted to be able to take a little more control of my work and also be able to get a higher cut of stuff because I'm trying to pay the bills. And
I'm on KU right now. I think you've got a way bigger library than me, so my plan is for now to be on KU, and then once I get a couple of series done, then I'm going to try to start and build up my following a little bit more. Then I'll start trying to do the same thing.
that was something that I've just, and I will admit, I was like, I don't know why I waited so long. So I'm going to let you know that was my theory is I finally made the jump to start selling direct, and so now I'm working to. I have to figure out like more space for the physical copies because I also sell paperback and hardcover direct as well, so I can sign copies and do book bundles and book series stuff and book boxes and all that fun stuff plus the ebooks. But I don't know why I waited so long because I opened it up. It's essentially almost like for 2.5 weeks prior to the holidays. Turn off my shops because I was traveling. Just turned it on yesterday, but like I've already seen enough stuff that I'm like, this is totally worthwhile. Why did I wait so long? And it's really cool because I can add in little perks and stuff. And like, some authors just do the signed copies and that's fantastic. Other people do above and beyond. I like to just do little things. Like one thing that I can do that's small and just speaks like me because I got really into origami when I was younger. And so I've been coming up with like little origami things for like my Viking series. I have my long ship. And stuff like that I can send with my books, and they don't, they're just that little token of thank you for buying direct, thank you for supporting.
I love little knick-knacky things like so much. Like my wife has to stop me from like going to places that have knick-knacky things because I have a problem. So.
Well, also, I think a lot of people like, hey, free stuff is cool. And I don't know what you say. Like, some people can complain about the 1,002 free pens. I will use them. I will take
my pens, like, not to brag, but the pens that I got, they're my favorite pens. They write so good. I have them everywhere in the house. I have them at my work because I like writing with them. I write with them every day. They turned out really nice. I'm super happy with them.
Ooh, okay, see, that's something I haven't done for myself is create a pen, but again, it is always...
Again, you don't eat bajillions of dollars. Bajillions.
Again, I have enjoyed, it's a lot more work, direct sales, because I have to now ship out and all that kind of stuff and keep up with all that. But on the other hand, the fact that I can sell the book at the same amount and make more money, I can discount it and make the same amount of money as elsewhere, where I can sell it for more and offer a bunch of cool stuff. It's nice to be able to like have that control. And
I'm all about, like I said, control. You're right. I maybe once I get this third book done and at least have one series, maybe I'll start doing that. I tried to do it like a year ago when I only had 2 books out, and it was not successful at all. So I went back into KU and all of that. But that was like 1,000 followers, and I was just a noob. So,
and that's the thing is, I think KU is one of those things that the authors that works for, especially people who write romantic forward stuff, which a lot of your stuff sounds like goes into that category. KU works really well for, And so maybe that is the way you want to ride that wave because it pays out for you. Other authors, genres, it's not as much. And so that gives us, that, or at least spawns that question is, well, would it work for us better to do something different? So, and the cool thing is, you try something and change back. You don't like it? Go back to the other way.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, yes, we definitely check us out now. But like, that's the fun thing about like doing these lives is also because you never know who's gonna pop in and meet us, and I love meeting new people. Okay, so another thing I want to make sure I do ask is where can people follow you? People who want to now be in the know of you outside of Book Talk. Do you have a website? Do you have a newsletter? What other platforms? Where can people find and follow you?
Yeah, mostly on TikTok, but I do have a newsletter that I have been horribly neglecting. Horribly. But I've been planning, like, I should do some book boxes for my subscribers too. But yeah, my front page on my website, if you go to jmichaelknight.com, it's right there to subscribe, enter your email address. I think you get, like a nice welcome message that I'm not going to spam you. And I really am not going to spam you because I haven't done anything with it at all. But I'm going to start doing subscriber only stuff. It's in the works.
I like that. And that's the fun thing is, I think, well, there's only so much time in a day. And a writer should write, theoretically. But we also have to market, advertise, all this other kind of stuff, too. But writers should write. So I understand there's limited time and limited energy, but when people find those nice balance to take on maybe a new project and a new focus or something to add on, like newsletters, it is kind of neat when authors are able to offer something that's like, I've started, I do like a welcome package where it's like you had the first couple chapters of each of my first of books so people can taste, sample, kind of like sample and see which one or hopefully one or more you like that you would be interested in. But they give a little sample. I have a couple of free short stories just to give a taste of my writing. And it's just little things that's just like, one, thank you for subscribing. Two, here's some, just get a taste and, little things. But again, writing takes time.
I've been trying to think of little tiny short stories that I could write when I've hit a stop on one of my other stories so that I could offer people. So I think that's a fantastic thing to do. I really like that. I need to do it. Yeah, yes, Andrew, I still work as a dentist. Unfortunately, I go back to work on Monday and I work like 48 hours a week as a dentist because my drive is like an hour and a half away because I work at a small remote community health clinic and I'm the only dentist for like a bunch of small town people. But I listen to a lot of audiobooks, so that's pretty much what lets my drives go through. Hopefully one day once my wife graduates, putting her through school right now, I can cut back and write more books.
Again, that goes back to the statement I said earlier about how you definitely have the soul of an author, because if you're working so much and traveling so much, just carpooling and still having that deep passion to put out books, it may be, I don't know how long it is duration between them, but like you're doing it. You're still doing it no matter what, it's hard. And kudos.
My New Year's resolution for the last 2 years has been to put out 2 books per year, and I've been able to do that. I would like to do 3 or 4. I don't know if that's going to happen while I'm working, but I will for sure at least put out 2 books a year. So
it's fantastic. So I applaud you because I'll be honest, when I was working full-time jobs and writing on the side, it was exhausting, and I obviously had the passion to push through with it, and now thankfully, knock on whatever, I am a full-time author / artist. So I do a little bit of both. I do that zigzag, but now that I have that again control, it's easier for me. But it is hard when you're doing all that, and again, unless that is your calling, some people stop it. So it is fantastic that you're continuing through it. And obviously, as I've seen like repeatedly today, you have some hardcore fans. So that's fantastic. thinking that.
Randy and Tina are great fans to have. They're wonderful.
Definitely sing a lot to you in your writing. But let me also ask, this was one of my favorite things as well to always make sure I include is, and this goes for anybody who's watching, is there any topic that you wanted to cover that we didn't cover so far, or any question that you had that you hadn't had a chance to ask so far today? Because I want to make sure everybody's happy. And I'll get to your question.
I'm a pantser through and through. Like when I messaged you before, I was like, "Is there anything that like I'm supposed to do?" And you're like, "No, I just wing it." I'm like, "I just wing it too." So
Grab tea,
never
go.
prepped for an interview in my life. So
Okay, so the cool thing Andrew just asked was about merchandising as an author. And that is something I think I would, it's one of those things that now I have a direct sales store. I am going to be looking into this year. I've been looking at some really cool kind of logo-esque artists that I'm kind of figuring out what series do I want to be like. Maybe my Animal Shifter series where or maybe and figure something out, because I think that would be kind of cool to come up with something. Not to say that thousands of people will run and be like, I want your logo hoodie, but it would be cool. I'm just saying, just offer it. So that is something I'll be looking into this year, but I don't have anything at this moment. Those are the baby steps. The planning that you're trying to get into. When is the Siren book coming? So I guess that
Wish. I already wrote 2 chapters of it because that's how I roll. That'll be this. Again, it'll be either Armor of Love, the Lies book, or the Sirens book, which will be the next one that I'll write after I finish this series. Because I decided I really want to finish the series. I want to have a series out, and like I said before, I love the covers, and I really want to make a really cool box set cover thing. So I want to get this done, and then it'll be maybe I'll do a vote on TikTok whether I should do Armor of Lies or write the 3rd book in the romance series. We'll see. And I'll go based on what all 10 people want.
I feel like it's more than 10 people. I feel like it's more than 10 people. But here's something. Now, when you start developing your fans, and this is something that, again, one of those things I'm kind of curious of, maybe I should do. I kind of wanting to plan to do this. And whenever you're at that stage where you're wrapping up a series, or maybe you're not even wrapping up a series, but to come out with special edition covers, because now you have your fans and they're like, got this, but you have your limited. Here's your whatever, your foil wrapped, all this. I mean, I've watched authors do stuff, and I'm like, we need to talk behind the scenes, because I want to do something like that leather bound, maybe not leather bound, but like, some really funky, cool, especially, new art that's just for the people who are supporting that, and, get your, essentially just pre-sale it and say, if you don't buy before this date, and then you make it and you send it out and you have special edition covers. I think that would be fun.
Definitely want to do that. I have eventually plans to do that. I saw somebody do. They had they had a series, and then they put the whole series all in one book, and they kind of re-edited it so that it flows as one book, and then made a kind of a new cover for it, and then a new title for it that was like a combination of all the titles. So I was like, that's kind of cool. But I've seen, the ones with like the gold foil kind of inside and around the title and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's so pretty looking. I want it too. So, and I'm always like one who's like, I love little things like that. So I want to try it all.
And I see Andrew saying a box with a lid to protect the books. Now I have to just visualize, are we talking about like a true box with the lid? Or are we talking about like a box with like a clear front that you can see the books with the lid? Like, now I have to like visualize it. But no, I just love thinking about like outside of the box, or maybe the box stuff for clear front. Okay, now I'm gonna have to look into this and be like, that would be kind of a fun. The hyper special edition.
Mahogany.
Yes, carved and embossed and with, that would be so fun. I don't have that money right now, but I will think about it and figure out how to do it. Kickstarters
Well, we're
for
not
me.
going to tell my wife how much money I've actually spent on this writing, so she'll never know.
Just came out of the ether. It's fine. But yeah, no, and that's the thing is it is that balance is when you're starting up and you have to like make your name for yourself and you're just finding out your super fans, which I already see you have multiple, so you know you have them.
Right.
But it is hard. It's a lot. People don't expect how much it is until you're like, oh,
No, and sometimes I'll have a whole week where I won't sell anything, and I'll feel like, okay, maybe I suck as a writer, and then every once in a while, somebody like Mandy or Tina or somebody on TikTok will be like, "I love your book," and I'd be like, "Thank you." Those are the things that keep me going, that like give me the motivation to keep going. When I'm like, is this all a pipe dream? Is the $12,000 I've spent on this huge waste of money, or is it something that'll maybe one day turn into something more? But
yeah. And here's the thing, also, your first book, and I say this practically every time, your first book is your first book. So if people love your first book, that's fantastic. Your second book should be better than your first book. Third book, fourth book, you get to a new series. That series should be better. And so when people give up early on, they never give themselves a chance to improve to get to that better stuff. And so sometimes it's
also, you'll never, if you give up, you'll never ever, regardless, you'll never have the chance because you quit. So
find a way. We'll support each other. I don't know. I think the author, in my opinion, the author community feels very supportive. So I love that.
that's the best. I've never had so many friends in my life. So
That's true. And the funny thing is, like, I'm always I will admit, I'm a extreme extrovert, and I love friends, and I love to collect them all. It's like Pokemon, but with people. And so now being on like this app, it's bad because I now know people all around the world, and if I ever get an opportunity to cross paths, I'm like, ooh, yay, you're my friend forever. Now you can never leave.
well, I've met like, I mean, even at the book, I did the Sinful Signings like book convention for the first time, and that was my first book convention, and it was so fantastic, like meeting the people that you see on TikTok like almost every day. It was really nice to say, hi, and I'm gonna do the Bookish Babes retreat thing in Van, Texas. I don't know if you've seen that.
I feel
But
like
there's a
that.
bunch like Evie, or not Evie, Lorna. I don't know if you know Lorna. Jen from Books and Beer, she's like affiliated with it. But yeah, I'm super excited. I think they're going to be pretty much like friends that I'll have for a long time to say hey on, which are the best kind of friends.
Yes, yes. And that's another goal down the line is, well, not just down the line. I'm working my way towards that goal of trying to go to more bookish things. Like physically be present at cons and conventions and signings and parties or whatever, because it is so much fun to see them in person and to be with people, and you just be it the reader side to the author, or author to author, or writer to author, or writer to
We
all the
all love the same stuff, so we all have something to talk about. So that's what's fantastic.
fun environment. And anytime I'm like, I get revitalized. I'm like, ooh, let's talk. What have you been reading? What have you been writing? What have you been doing? It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna be at Sinful this year, Brandy and Andrew. That is not my X-ray. That is just one we got on the internet because we're dentist nerds. So we have a pan X-ray in the background. And my wife is actually in school to be a periodontist. The surgery that she did in her mom that I was talking about was she did a sinus lift and then put 2 implants and did a bone graft on her face. So she's going to be the implant specialist. So she'll be my sugar mama when she graduates.
I love that. I love that. On the other hand, one of my goals, and I've told my husband this 1,000 times, is I want to be his sugar mama because I want to make that much money off my writing. That is my goal.
What I told her, I mean, she wants me to focus. I mean, she's always wanted me to do more on dentistry because she thinks dentistry has a bigger potential income-wise than writing, but I don't like, I mean, I'm good at dentistry, at least what I do, and I try to do what I would do for myself, for my patients, and try not to. Thankfully, I'm at a community health, so I don't have to sell nothing. I get the same salary doing, taking out your tooth or saving your tooth. So I try to give you the options and do what I would do for myself. But I don't want to be a dentist. I want to write stories full time. I've got like 15 stories in my head just right now that I want to write, and I think people will like them. So hopefully, like you said, we'll get there.
And you were talking about building out your library, your I've blanked on the other term, your back not backlog. Can't think of the term. But like yes, building out your library of the books that you're writing, and there's a whole philosophy. It's the 20 books 50K philosophy. You have to continuously writing and put out a lot of books to make, to be able to theoretically make a living off of it. And if you write enough and you push through it, you will eventually start making that, and then you will have that option of, do I like my day job enough, my current day job enough to keep and then write, or do I want to switch over? And there are people I know who keep their day job, they love it enough, and still write very well. And there are others who are just like, peace out, I'm going to be a full-time writer.
Not me. Yeah, I definitely don't want to. I have, from being in the Army, I've had 2 back surgeries from having to wear the like 150 pounds of gear in Afghanistan for like 2 years straight. And so my lower back is shot. And so having to take out teeth and bending over and trying to look in people's mouths, like it's killer. So I'm like, no. Once my wife graduates, I'm hoping to cut down to part-time and then focus more on getting these books out. So.
Okay. One last. I realize the time. One last question, and I know you have family in, but if you make, let's say you start to make it big, you don't have to be like huge. Start to make it big. What is one thing which I do believe that when you have an achievement, you should celebrate it, and celebration should be comparable to the achievement. But let's say you make it moderately big, reach one of your goals. What is one thing you would do for yourself to be like, I did it? Would you like get yourself a cool keyboard, a nice new office chair? Would you, I don't know what kind of level, but like, what would you do to be like, pop some bubbly? I don't know.
I'd like to do which I've always said, like to my wife, I would like to do like a snowboarding like retreat for like 4 or 5 days where I go to like a resort that has like snowboarding and have the hot coat, like go snowboarding all day and then like have the hot coat. Like I've gone snowboarding for like a few hours, here and there, and I like snowboarding. So I feel like I would like to do that, snowboard all day and then go inside by the fire and have some cocoa and like write and relax. That's what I would do as a reward. And if I made it real big, I would do an even more giant like book box giveaway thing.
Ooh, I like that.
Those are really.
Yes, I love. Okay, one, as a person who likes books, so shocker, book box giveaways are fantastic. But yeah, no, I love the idea of going. I've actually, because I live in the deep south, I have not ever skied or snowboarded or any of that jazz. But I think theoretically that would be a lot of fun. I always love doing outside activities, so something like going, hiking or a weekend in the mountains or that kind of stuff would be a lot of fun. So I think that is a great plan. So now you have your plan. Now you have a goal in mind. Achieve that goal.
If I ever win the lotto, I'm like, I want to turn my Other Side series into a movie.
All right, there you go. I like that. I wonder if you're one of the people who have already kind of picked out your cast behind the scenes. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted the only cast member that I had picked out, because this is the person who I imagined when I was writing the character, and I found out he passed away last year, and I was like, oh, that's a bummer. And I even like messaged him like for fun, and I was like, hey, like if I ever win the lot, like I sent him like on TikTok, I commented on his video. I said, if I ever win the lotto, man, I'm like hiring you, and you're gonna play like this character. I don't know if you know who Lance Reddick is, but he was the, huh?
I said I'm very bad with names, which is really
Okay.
funny as a writer.
So
But
I don't know if you've ever seen the show Fringe,
it's been a long time.
or John Wick, the black guy from the hotel. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's who I pictured Elder Ryan, who is kind of the guy who like trains Mikey with his mother's people. And he is like exactly who I imagined when I wrote the character. And so I like really, he's one of my favorite actors. And so I really wanted him to play. And then I found out he passed away and it was super sad. But yeah.
Because I've been with you where it's like you have like this character, actor in mind when that just the face or the features. You're
Yeah.
like, ooh, you are that person almost in like living flesh, but but you never know. You may have to now search for someone new, but that would be really neat to have something on screen for you.
And
Just
Nino, that's why if you like audiobooks, I like audiobooks too, so my stuff's on Audible also.
audiobooks are fantastic. And I will say, like, up until the process of trying to convert my stuff into audio, I did not listen to any. So it's been a huge learning curve, and it's one of those things I'm always like, why? Why don't I do it as much? Because it is fantastic. You can do it if you drive a lot, like you said, if you're going to and from work. You can do it while you're doing dishes. It's just a great way to read when you're not having to sit down and actually just be still and read, which is my problem, is because I do a lot of stuff. I probably could read a lot more if I got into audiobooks a little bit more.
They've been a lifesaver for these drives. So I've been doing stories that I wouldn't typically, or that I've been putting off for like years, that people have said like you should like listen to this story. So I'm like, well, I've got nothing better to do. So I've been like I've never listened to Brandon Sanderson, and I've been told you should listen to a Brandon Sanderson. So I listened to one of his entire series, and I actually loved it. And so now I'm on another one. So what was that?
What series? I have yet to read his.
Miss
Okay,
Bourne.
that's the one. Okay, so that's the one that I feel like I want to be my first true.
One of
Break.
the best stories I've ever heard, and maybe the best ending to any story that I've ever heard or read or listened to. Like, no joke. It was way better. And I went, okay, like I understand why he's a bajillionaire. Like I get it. Okay. I understand why he can build an underground like Hobbit house for $10 million. Like I get it.
I want to say now the note that in my head that's what I want to be my first full one. I will have the kid and said I am working. When I say working, when I read a series, I read a book of one series, then jump to another series and do a standalone. It takes me a while to actually read a series. I'm working my way through Wheel of Time, which is also a longer series, but I do know he was the writer for the last few books. So technically, I feel like those might actually be the first ones I read of his. But of his own work, I've heard a lot about Mistborn, and I feel like that should be the one to go.
Good.
I love it. So okay, I keep saying one last question because I know this is real. Okay, one final question now that we're on the topic of reading. What is one book that's on your TBR list for this year? Audio, physical, it doesn't matter.
I want pretty much the rest of his Stormlight. Brandon said I'm listening to the first book in his Stormlight series right now, and I'm really like it's a lot. There's like a lot going on. There's multiple POVs, and but it's way more complicated than the Mistborn. So I'm glad I started with the Mistborn. But my TBR is to finish his series, and then I also want to finish Leona, Evie Belleck's book, which I will.
I do see a comment one slid in saying David Gemmell, hopefully I pronounced his last name, was an awesome writer. I don't know him, so I'm going to look him up. I always I'm not always. I'm getting better about keeping a sticky note. So when I have suggestions or something really cool, and I always learn something new every time I'm on one of these, at least one thing. Okay.
I'm terrible. I'm absolutely terrible with names. I don't know any. If I know my patient's name, it's because they're super awesome, and I'm like, we have like a really good relationship, or they're terrible. Most people, I don't know their names because I'm terrible at remembering names. I have to like repeat it in my head like 14,000 times for it to stick.
And for me, like unless you're one of my characters, it takes forever. I apologize. Oh, hey you for like.
Brandy.
It's not because I don't like you. It's because it just doesn't stick. Unless you're one of my book characters.
I did read Unbalanced, Brandy, and I'm like 150 pages into Leona, and I've definitely, I mean, it's Evie. I like her writing. She writes very similar to me. We've had a joke about it because our romance series is very similar writing style, and I call her my writing twin. So I think Leona's good too so far. I'm sure it'll be fantastic.
That is fantastic.
Okay,
Well, now that it is 8:20, I will have to call it a night because usually this time I walk my dog, but he got fixed today. So I have to go check on him and see how he's doing. But with that said, sorry about the real right there. But with that said, thank you so much for joining me, especially on a Friday, and I hope you enjoy your family during the last little stay with you guys. And if you ever want to do this again, I do these weekly. I just schedule them in advance because I like to plan.
no, sounds good. Thanks so much for having me.
And thank you
You
for
have a great
everybody.
night.
We
And
appreciate
thanks
you
everybody for commenting and sticking around. I'll see you around.
and have a fantastic weekend, everyone.
You too. Great
Bye.
night.